بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We are continuing with our studies of Surah Al-Qamar, and inshallah today we're starting a new section, that is section 4. Remember, we have about 11 sections, so we're almost halfway, which is great, alhamdulillah. And this section covers ayahs number 16 to ayah number 20. And so far we've covered, let me just show you how much we've covered and how the story flows, so that we don't miss the big picture, so that we are understanding what is happening. Because again, we can get into so much details and focus so much on the Nahw and the Sarf and the Ba and the type of Wow and the type of Lam and all this stuff, and we forget what the surah is saying. So it's always important to take a step back and just realize, what is it that we're doing here? So this is what we've done so far. And I've mentioned I love Quran.com. So if you guys are not signed up yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. You should be signed up and using Quran.com on your phone, on your computer, everywhere. You could be sitting in a bus waiting to go somewhere. You could be walking and just listen to the Quran. Quran.com is the best. Anyway, so اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. This is what we did long time ago now, a couple of weeks back. We discussed about how the signs of the hour are near, and how the moon has split. And if this mushrikun of Makkah, in يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر, they see an ayah and they turn away from it, and they just say, oh, this is just plain old magic. We've seen this magic, this type of continuous magic before. This is magic continuing from long ago. This is nothing new. وكذبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم, so they followed their own desires and rejected this. وكل أمر مستقر. Don't worry about it. Everything is going to be settled. Eventually, things are going to be settled. They're going to see the truth. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And in fact, evidences has come to them. What is deterring? What should have stopped them from rejecting this message? Big news, not just some kind of, like, any type of news, like major news has come to them. What kind of major news? Some have said hikmatun baligha is part of it, but my conviction is that this hikmatun baligha is what is being described, and also this hikmatun baligha is referring to the Quran, and also the evidences that Allah is going to give later is also the news that is being mentioned here. So hikmatun baligha, far-reaching wisdom, i.e. the Quran. Something that is stable, something that is far-reaching, not just some magic. They called it magic, but Allah is saying hikmatun baligha, far-reaching wisdom. فما تغني النذر. So now, what is reminder? Reminder is not going to benefit them. And we said this ma could be two kinds of ma. It could be a question, or it could be nafia. It could be negating. Reminder is not going to benefit them. Or what reminder is going to benefit them now? Like, they're already done. They've already chosen their path. No reminder is going to benefit them. And in that case, the Prophet is told, فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ. Let them be. Turn away from them. They turned away from us. You turn away from them. يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِ. And this begins a new section, and we'll see at the end how all these sections come together. So يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِ إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ. Then Allah shifts focus to the Day of Judgment, and He describes the scenes of these rejectors and these deniers and these people who follow their own desires on the Day of Judgment, how they will be خُشَّ عَنْ أَبْصَارُهُم. And He talks about different scenes, how they will come out of their graves, كَأَنَّهُمْ جَرَادٌ مُنْتَشِرٌ, how rushing towards this person who's calling them to شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ, to some despicable, horrible nukur. We talked about what nukur is, يقول الكافرون, and at the same time they're saying, oh, this is such a difficult day. This is and again, عسر, يوم عسر, sorry. The mubalagha forms are being used throughout this surah. And now, from the section of Day of Judgment, we enter into a new section, now the section of evidences, the biggest section of this surah, where Allah is actually talking about, see, he mentioned وَكَذَّبُوا وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. News had already come to them. What kind of news? Well, the story of Nuh, and the story of Ad, and the story of Thamud, and the story of Lut, and the story of Fir'aun. All these stories, they came to them from before. So Allah is going to elaborate what He meant by وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ, starting with the story of Nuh, which we described last week, this section, and how just chaotic the scene that Allah paints with these words. It's just, subhanallah, I will never read this surah again. You know, I used to read it and be like, oh, it's just nothing. But now when I read it, I just feel scared when I read this surah, because it's so scary how Allah speaks in this part. And we also saw the mercy of Allah for Nuh alayhi salam, how he changed the tone. It was fajarna, it was fatahna, fafatahna. It was like, oh, if you look at the language, it was very aggressive. And then when it comes to Nuh, وحملناه على ذات ألواح ودسر تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر. It just shifts and the tone becomes so beautiful, so loving, so merciful, so tender to Nuh alayhi salam. And you could almost feel that when you're reading this. And now, you know, we finished that section. I think today we're going to start from ayah number 16. So تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر ولقد تركنا. We suddenly left it as a sign, and we said this here could mean the story, or it could mean the safina, the ship. فهل من مدكر. So today we are beginning with فكيف كان عذابي ونذر, all the way to تنزع الناس كأنه أعجاز نخل منقعر. So we're going to finish off the story of Nuh and enter into the story of Ad a little bit, and then we'll finish it tomorrow, inshallah. So that's basically what we're going to do today. So let's see who wants to participate. You can raise your hand. Again, we're just doing Nahw and Sarf today. Explanation will come next week. Sultana?
Sister, I was waiting others.
Okay. Let me make this bigger.
So far.
Sorry. Okay, I think that's a good size.
Okay.
So
far. So this is Harf, which can be Sanafia, sister, or should I make a Azrabit now for the before?
Yes, so in this case, it's actually going to be Fasiha. And I know this is one of those cases that maybe I will have to explain as we go on, because it's not a common one. Fa istinafia is very common. Fa atuf is very common. Fa Fasiha is one of those not so common ones, but it happens quite a bit in the Quran. So we talked about this, I think, when we were discussing Surah Taghabun. And just, I already painted to you the picture. We started with revising what we have covered so far. And so Allah, before he mentioned فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ, he just talked about the story of Nuh. And he painted this horrible, chaotic punishment that descended on the people of Nuh, alayhi salam. And Allah then is saying, فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ. Yani, he's trying to say that if you understand the magnitude, how heavy the punishment was, if you understand what these people did, as has been discussed, based on their choices, if you just read all that and you understood that, then you would understand how heavy, how terrible, كيف كان عذابي ونذر, how terrible my punishment and my warning was. If you understood that, and actually we painted that picture last week, so if you envision that imagery that was painted, then you would understand how terrible my punishment and my warning is. So this fa is Fasiha. It is explaining what came before. Like if you understood what came before, then this would make sense to you, right? Okay. Our favorite ism. Ism istifham kaifa.
So here this is Khabru Kana, sister.
Beautiful.
Sorry, is Khabru Kana.
I'm gonna explain this because I know a lot of people might want to. So we're gonna understand Kana to Kaifa today, inshallah. And hopefully I think this is the best example to have. So Kana Adabi wa Nudhur. That is the sentence that comes after Kaifa. Kana Adabi wa Nudhur. Maybe let's figure it out, and then I can explain Kaifa. What is Kana Adabi wa Nudhur?
Kana, this is Kana is this is some nakhis, fala nakhisa. So Azabi wa Nuzuri, which is Matuf, and Matuf alay is Ismu Kana.
Yes. Okay. So this is Kana, and then Adabi would be the ism of Kana. So Kana and its ism. We're going to say Kana plus ism Kana.
Ism Kana.
Okay. So we have that. That is Adabi, Kana Adabi. And then you have Waw Harf Atuf. So this would be the Atuf and Ma'tuf.
Matuf.
So that's what's happening in that ayah. So now let's figure out kayfa. How did we understand that kayfa is khabar kana muqaddam? How did we come up to that conclusion? Now let's just look at this sentence here. Kana adabi wa nudhur. Let's forget about kayfa. Kana adabi wa nudhur. We said that that is isim kana and it's isim. Khabar kana is missing. So my punishment and my warning was what? It's not said. So because it's missing, then kayfa becomes the khabar. That's what is happening. So my punishment and my warning was how. That's kind of like how you understand it. But because isim istifham has to come at the beginning of a sentence, that's why kayfa came in the beginning. Okay. So for example, if we had a khabar, so if this sentence at the moment is my punishment and warning was how. Like, imagine, oh, it was that bad. It was how. It was bad. So if you answered this question, you'd probably answer it with it was terrible.
Very scary,
or very scary, or it was bad. If you were to do the i'rab of terrible or bad, what will it be?
Terrible. This will be masdar. It was.
Okay, so it would be kana.
Kana.
And the isim of kana in this case, it would be the huwa inside kana.
Ji.
And then you have invisible is, and then terrible would be the khabar kana, right?
Kana.
If you look at just this sentence here, it was terrible. It would be the mubtada. It's kana plus its isim. Terrible will be the khabar. So you see, if you answered a question, the answer gives you the i'rab of the isim istifham. So because terrible is khabar, is the khabar, then kayfa also becomes the khabar. That's one way you can understand this. How do you answer this question? What answer do you give to this question? Then that answer, the i'rab of that answer becomes the i'rab of the question, of the kayfa or the ma or the man. This is how you can look at it if you understand what is happening in isim istifham. Now let's look at another question. For example, if this sentence was my punishment and warnings were terrible. And I had a how. So if I had how, if I put a how, and I put a question mark. So I put a kayfa, but now I have a mubtada and I have a khabar. Here in the beginning, I only had a mubtada, there was no khabar. Okay, so I was missing a khabar. When you answer this question, how would you answer this? How my punishment and warnings were terrible? Like, I want to know how. What kind of question am I asking? I'm asking about a hal of something. Like, how is it terrible? It's not.
They were painful.
Or maybe, yeah, you can say painful, painfully terrible. Painfully terrible. Yeah? So when you say painfully terrible, this kind of word painfully is a hal. It's describing a state. So you see this now, you would do the kayfa as a hal in this case. Now this how, because it answers the hal, it answers how something happens. How my punishment and warnings were terrible? Painfully terrible. That becomes the hal. So that's kind of just how you look at ism istifham, especially kayfa, because the other asma'ul istifham, we deal with them separately and differently. So that's what is happening here. I don't know if was that clear or not. So look at the sentence after it. When you have ism istifham, pause it for a second. Don't even focus on it. Look at what comes after it. What kind of a sentence am I dealing with? If it is a kana sentence, then it has to be a kana. If it's kana sentence, is the khabar mentioned? If the khabar is not mentioned, then kayfa becomes the khabar. Okay. And of course, there's the idea that if kayfa comes with an ism, if kayfa comes with an ism, then again, you just look at what's happening in that sentence. So for example, if you have kayfa haluka, kayfa haluka. If you have this question, kayfa haluka, forget the kayfa for a minute. Look at hal. Look at hal. What is it? It's rafa. It's the first rafa that you see. So this is going to be my mubtada. That means my kayfa is the khabar. Right? Or you have a jumla fi'liya after it. A jumla fi'liya after it. For example, kayfa ذهب أحمد. كيف ذهب أحمد. Forget the kayfa for a minute. Look at the sentence. ذهب أحمد. Ahmed went. How? This is asking about the hal of how Ahmed went. So when I just look at the sentence, I can be able to determine what role the ism istifham is doing. Yeah. So in this case, it will be the hal. Yeah. This is if you have a fi'l that is muta'addi. If you have a fi'l that is lazim, then the kayfa would be, sorry.
This lazim fi'l system. Zahaba is
lazim. Yes, sorry. If the fi'l is lazim, then the kayfa would be the hal. But if the fi'l is muta'addi, then the kayfa would be the maf'ul bihi. It's a lot, I know. But we don't really focus so much on this. I would do specific classes for asma'ul istifham, inshallah. All of them, the huruf al-istifham, they're only two, hamza and hal, and there is not much going on for them because they're not asma, there's no i'rab of them. But the asma'ul istifham, I would do a separate class, and we can go into details about this. But for now,
so in this in jumla failure, there are only
yes, go on.
There are only two options, that either it can be hal or maful bihi. Sister, it is in that way. Kaifa. In jumla failure, the options for kaifa are two. Either it has to be hal or maful fihi.
Yes. Okay. Of course, there are other situations where not maful fihi.
Sorry, maful bihi. Maful bihi.
Yes. Yeah. So there are other situations where you can have, like it comes with a fi'il that takes on 2 maf'ul bihis or 3 maf'ul bihis. Those are very rare occasions. Yeah. We can look at them when we do the classes, but mainly, kayfa has 2 kinds of i'rab. Either it's going to be a khabar or it's going to be a hal. Those are the 2 main i'rabs of kayfa. Yeah? So that's something to always just remember. Okay. So I hope we clarified something about kayfa there. But even if it's not clear, don't really worry so much about it. I will do a proper class on asma'ul istifham. Just for now, I think for the purpose of this ayah, I hope we can understand how this is the khabar of kana. So my warnings and my punishment and warnings were how they were terrible. So that's why kayfa is the khabar of kana. Any questions so far? Very good. Again, guys, my policy is if you ever feel left behind, do not feel shy, do not feel embarrassed. Go on and ask. Even if you feel like your question is stupid, do not be embarrassed to ask questions. Just go on and ask, and we'll figure it out together, inshallah. If I don't know, I don't know. But if I know, I will try and help. Okay, great. All right, so let's go on.
Wow. Wow is harf istinafiyah?
Yeah, it could be istinafiyah, or it could be atif also. Just if you know this, how terrible my punishment is, and this could also be atif to that. And we will see in the explanation how beautiful, what is the connection between how horrible my punishment is and the Quran. Like there's a subtle link that is being there. So you can also say this is istinafiyah or it's harf atif, and both would give you beautiful meanings. Yeah.
لقد. These are harf tahqiq.
Yes.
لقد.
Yeah. So lam will be lam al-qasam.
Lam is lam al-qasam.
Yeah, and then the qad would be harf tahqiq. for a surety, like حقا, it really happened, you know, to emphasize.
So we have to consider as qasam mahzoof, sister, for this?
Yes.
Before?
Wallahi laqad. Like it's like
Allah.
saying like that.
Ji.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Na? This is Fe'l Maadi. So Na Zamir is the file. Yes, sir. Na? Al-Qur'ana is maf'ul bihi. للذكر مفعول به. للذكر لي is حرف جر. ذكري is مجرور. So جار مجرور متعلقان بالفعل. Yes, sir. Na?
Yes. متعلقان B. Now I'm going to teach you. We're going to start changing a little bit because we want to stay true to the Arab books. So we've been saying متعلق بالفعل, متعلق بالخبر, but now we're going to start saying متعلق to what exactly? So in this case, we're going to say متعلق to يسرنا.
يسرنا.
Beautiful.
So fa. So again, this fa will be like fasiha, sister, or atf, or so. It is like so, right?
So yeah. So atf just works fine. Yeah. So we can say this fa is atf. Running out of space.
هل حرف استفهام? Yes.
So we're going to skip hal because it's a harf. Harf do not get i'rab. So we're going to just leave it.
لا الإعراب. من حرف جر.
Yes.
مذكر is مجرور. No, it's الفاعل which is مجرور.
Yes, it is.
So this is again متعلقان to يسرنا فعل مجرور.
But there's a harf here. This is like a new something.
So
happening.
this is متعلق to خبر.
Which خبر? What's
محذوف.
Good. Danny, that's the line that I want you to think about. But it's not that the خبر is محذوف.
So here the مبتدا
is it's not that the what did you say? خبر محذوف. Yes, خبر is محذوف. Yeah.
خبر محذوف.
So what is the مبتدا?
مبتدا المذكر.
I'm going to help you. I'm going to write something here that probably is going to point you in the right direction.
Min zaida. This is not okay.
So if min zaida, if you remove the min from the sentence.
Mudakkira, it itself will act as a ismul file, which will have this will act itself as a fail, which will have a file within it. So is it in that way, sister?
Okay, so we're just thinking mubtada khabar. Think simple. Think mubtada khabar. I am saying that this min is zaida, is extra.
So this is mubtada.
Exactly.
Mudakkir is mubtada.
Yes. So this is mubtada. And the khabar is mahdhuf. Yeah, so sometimes you can have a case where the mubtada is nakira. It doesn't have al on it. It can happen. I know we said, you know, the first rafa'a that you see, that is, it has al on it, is proper, that would be your mubtada. But you have cases in which the mubtada is not proper. Or like, for example, especially when it comes to the after harf jar majroor. Li qalamun. Doesn't have al on it. It's fine, no problem. Yeah. So
this was to make much more nakira, na, sister? Min was to more intensify this. Yeah.
So it adds the intensity there. Not intensity, but even a single yani it's Allah is asking for like fahal like even just a single one person who's going to remember, just one. Like Allah is not asking for much, guys. Allah is asking for this min, because Allah could have said fahal mudakkirin mawjud, because that would be the sentence. The sentence is mudakkirin mawjud. Let me write it down here so that you can see all the parts. Mudakkirun موجود. خبر مبتدأ خبر مذكر موجود أو المذكر موجود أو المذكر موجود, because if you put al on it, it won't have tanween. Yeah. So المذكر موجود. A reminder is present. That was it. Allah did not say هل المذكر موجود. Is there a reminder present? That's not what Allah said. Allah took away the al, which makes it even more open. Because when you take the al away, al makes something specific. Nakira is more ambiguous. So anyone at all, anywhere. You understand what is happening? Mudakkir. Yeah. And then Allah added min. Just any single one, anywhere at all. And then Allah removed mawjudun. Like, you don't even have to be present. Like, even min mudakkir, just a reminder. It doesn't even have to be present. Like, subhanAllah. Yes. Allah made it so simple, so easy by using this language. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَكِّرٍ. Is that clear? What is happening in that ayah?
Ilham?
Yes. Go on.
Oh, but okay, why is it not in the Rafa status? If it's the Mubtada?
Min is harf jar. At the end of the day, whether it's zaida or not zaida. So yeah, it's zaida, but doesn't mean it's not working. So if I remove it,
it will not have any effect on.
No. Min zaida always has an effect. It's still a harf of jar. For example, you remember when we were doing ma templates, negation, and then we said ma plus ba harf jar makes it even a stronger negation, but the ba would still have an effect. It's ba zaida, but it will always make it majroor. For example, if we said I'm thinking of a sentence to negate with a ma plus ba structure, ma plus ba zaida. So ma, I'm thinking of a jumla ismiya. Why can't I think of a jumla ismiya? Ma hada birajulin. Okay, I don't know why that you would say something like that, but ma hada bi rajulin. So the sentence, it was hada rajulun. Hada rajulun, right? Initially. Let's put the harakat so that you understand. Hada rajulun. And then I want to negate this. I would say ma hada. Ma hada. What do I do with the rajul when I'm negating jumla ismiya? I'm going to make it nasab. Ma hada rajulan. Remember that? Long time ago when we were doing laysa. Yeah? Ma hada rajulan. Laysa hada rajulan. Right? And now I want to add even extra emphasis. So I'd say ma hada bi rajulin. Ma hada bi rajulin. This is absolutely not a man. This ba is zaida. As you can see here, it's still the same sentence. It just adds more emphasis. But it's zaida and it's still acting as a jar majroor, as a still. So the only kind of zaida that okay, let me explain what the concept of zaida means. The concept of zaida means it does not affect the grammatical labeling of the sentence. For example, I will not say that this is isim majroor, even though this is harf jar and this is isim majroor, but when I'm doing the labeling, I will not say that this is jar majroor muta'alliq. I will not say that. I will say that this min is zaida, but this mudakkirin is the mubtada. You see, I wrote there mubtada. I did not say muta'alliq. I wrote mubtada, even though it is mudakkirin. So I would say it is mubtada fi mahalli rafa. Right? Because initially it was supposed to be hal mudakkirun. This min came, added the zaida, and it did what it did. Okay, so just it does not affect the grammatical labeling, but it can affect the status. It can affect if it is rafa, jar, like so on and so forth. So that's something to understand. I hope that's clear now. Also remember the ma zaida. There's a ma zaida. That ma zaida that has a job, the one that blocks, that one blocks something from doing the job. Like for example, if you have innama, we are just doing revision now here so that we can maybe clarify this concept. Innama. Yeah, the inna that comes, the ma that comes with inna. We said this kind of ma is ma zaida, and this structure is called kafa and makfufa because it stops innama huwa Allah. Okay, he's only Allah. Innama huwa Allah. When I'm doing that, you see, normally inna would make the khabar nasab. But because I brought this ma kind of stopped inna from doing its job. So there's no status that changed. So it affects the status if it's rafa, nasab, jar, but it does not affect the labeling. I would still say this is my mubtada, I would still say so on, and this is my another mubtada, and this is another khabar, like that. So the labeling does not change. That's what we mean by that. Zaida. I hope that's clear. So anytime you have something zaida, take it out of the equation, then you know how to do the grammatical labeling. And now you can come back and say, okay, that is zaida. All right. Any other questions there? Fantastic. Let's look at كذبت.
كذبت فعل ماضي.
ماضي.
So here Zamir is a file, but we have adun further. So adun will be file. So jumla fi'liyat happened. So fa is again the fasiha sister, like how it happened before. Ji.
Yeah, so we've already done the i'rab of this.
Ji.
We're not going to do that again. We've already done it. We've already explained quite a bit of it. So that's that. Okay. And I think that the beginning part is quite clear because fi'al madi, here version, you look outside for a fa'il, you see adun is rafa, so that makes it the fa'il. And I think last time when we were doing كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح, we discussed how the here version, you can have the here version with isim jama. This is plural because the Arab said so. So sometimes when you're having this kind of plurals, because the Arab said so, you can have the here version, you can have the hum version, and we looked at the different possibilities of that as well. If not, you can just refer to, I don't know which video it was, honestly. But yeah, and I have notes on that on my Google Drive, so you can also check. Under plurals, we discussed in further details about these kinds of plurals and how they behave. Okay. So let's go to inna.
Inna is mushabba bil fi'l with the na zamir as the ismu inna.
So it's going to be what?
Mubtada.
Exactly. So this whole thing is a mubtada. Inna and its isim. Technically, it's innana, inna plus nahnu, but you can also just write it as inna. You can just say it as inna. Okay, makes it shorter. And of course, there's balagha reasons for that as well, because there are other places. What is this?
Arsalna. This is khabru inna.
Beautiful. So the whole thing is the khabar, and inside that khabar,
Arsalna is fi'l madi, na zamir as the file. عليهم is jar majrur متعلق بالفعل أرسلنا. ريحا is مفعول به. صرصرا is sifa of that. So this whole will be مفعول به. في يوم نهس في ظرف جر. يومي is مجرور because of في. يوم نهس is مضاف إليه. Which is متعلقان to فعل أرسلنا.
Yes.
And مستمرا is صفة of يوم نهس.
Yes, that's one way of looking at it. So this مستمر could be sifa to يوم, or it could be sifa to nahs. What's the difference? What is the difference if it is sifa to? How do we, like, what does that even mean when we say that it is the sifa to what am I doing? Okay, So mustamir, we're saying mustamir is either the sifa of
continuous.
nahsin or is the sifa of yawmi.
Yawm.
What's the difference?
No, it can be only for nahsin, sister.
Why?
Nahus.
Why can it be for yawm?
Because it has to be what to say? It is proper, right? Yawma.
Yawm is proper?
في يوم نحسن
How do we know if a mudaf ilayh is proper? We look at the mudaf ilayh. If the mudaf ilayh is proper, then the mudaf is proper. Here it's not proper. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me do an example.
So because it is not proper, nahsin is nakira, so mustamirrin is again nakira. So these two matches.
Yes.
It is in that.
Yes. Yeah. So if I say continuous.
Like misfortune.
Yeah. Or you can say yeah, nahs means misfortune.
Misfortune.
But I'm going to just use a different example. How do you write continuous? Jeez. Okay, continuous. Continuous, difficult day. Or if I say a difficult
continuous difficult day.
Continuous day. So you see, this continuous is describing a difficult day. The difficult day is continuous. Maybe in English is not doing so much difference. Or maybe difficult is not the best day to use. But the idea is, if I put continuous, if I say continuous, mustamirrin, is the sifa to yawmi nahsin, this one is the sifa to the whole idafa. If it is a sifa to yawm, then it is a sifa to the entire idafa. Okay? So I'm describing this idafa here, yawmi nahsin, with mustamirrin. You understand? So if I say that this is a sifa to yawm, then it's a sifa to this entire thing. But if I say that mustamir is a sifa to nahs, then I'm taking it, I'm putting the bracket there. So I'm saying yawmi nahsin mustamir. So I'm putting the bracket here. Because this now becomes mawsuf sifa. So that would be the difference. It's a very small, subtle difference. It doesn't make a lot of maybe a lot of implications in translations. But yeah, so it could either be a sifa to that, to a sifa to nahsin, or a sifa to yawm. Okay.
We can consider both the ways, sister.
Yeah,
possibilities.
Both possibilities.
There is nothing wrong in it. Okay.
No.
Tanziu is fi'l mudari. Tanziu. Tanziu nasa. So tanziu.
What's the fa'il?
Fa'il is here.
Here. It could be anta, but then what would it mean? Allah is commanding. It doesn't make sense. So the only possibility is that it's here. Now, if it is here, what do we do?
Here we have to search if there is an outside door, but I think so we don't have outside door here.
We don't have outside door here. But what is it referring to?
We can make atf on for the before one, which had a here.
Can you break up the idafa? Can you, somebody is asking a question can you break up the idafa? In what sense? I'm not sure I understand. In a sense that you say that the nahsin and
considering the
mustamirin.
meaning, sorry.
When
considering the meaning, yeah.
Because you can't break the idafa, that's why the sifa comes after. Because you can't say yawmi mustamirin nahsin. Like if you can't break the idafa is yawmi nahsin. This is the idafa. But now this mustamirin is a sifa that came after. So what is it a sifa to? Is it a sifa to the nahs? Therefore, the mudaf ilay is continuing. So this is one big mudaf ilay. Or is this mustamirin describing the entire idafa? So you're taking it, let me explain that again. So either you're taking it as the mudaf ilay ends there. The mudaf ilay ends there, and therefore this is a sifa to the entire idafa. Or you're saying the mudaf ilay continues, and this is one mudaf ilay. So you can't break up the mudaf ilay. It's just that how are you understanding this nat? Is it describing the idafa, or is it describing the mudaf ilay? And in that sense, the mudaf ilay is continuing. Yeah.
Okay, so is it possible to consider both ways? Because I thought
yes,
we're going to, consider the idafa. It's describing the whole idafa. That's what I thought, but I didn't know that you can think about, separate parts.
You can do that if it fits, because you can see in this part, like it's light, it's the same status, all the 4 properties match. And because of that, it can go either way. If this mustamirin, if maybe it was a nahs, how was it? Like if it was different, maybe it was yawma. Instead of yawmi, it was yawma. If that was the case, then there's no possibility. The only possibility is that these are together, because now it is majrur. Yeah, because the status does not match with yawma. But in this case, you see status matches, type matches, gender, everything, all the 4 properties match. So the possibility is there. And because the possibility is there, we can take a look at both ways. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Tanziu. So this Tanziu is going back to Rihan Sarsaran, sister?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going back to Rihan Sarsara, and especially Rihan.
So this will become Rihan.
But why? Why is it going back to Rihan? Like Rihan, is it feminine?
Feminine, yeah. Winds
Yes,
are considered as feminine in Arabic.
Arabic. Absolutely. That's why. That's what is happening here. Rih is a feminine word. And that is why
Tanzi.
Yes.
An-nasa maful bihi. Then ka'annahum, this is again mushabba bil fil, kanna. Hum zamir is the ismu kanna.
I'm just going to call it mubtada.
Mubtada. Ajazu nakhlin. So this is khabru kanna, which is so munqairin is, this will be sifa, sister, again for nakhli.
Now here you see what is happening. I can only look at it like this. I can never say that this munqair goes back to ajaz, never, because the status does not match. So you see what is how we determine that. So this is mudaf.
Ajazu
I'm just
muzaf,
going to write idafa.
Munqairin is muzaf.
Yeah, and then this will be the sifa. Only one possibility here now. Sifa li nakhlin. You can never see other possibilities. There we go. Now, what is this whole part? What do you think this whole part could be? What kind of question do you think it answers? Like كأنهم أعجاز نخل خاوية. The winds, it used to pluck people out, extract people out, yank people out, like they were أعجاز نخل خاوية, like uprooted palm trees. What do you think? What kind of question? If somebody asked you, if there was a question behind this, if this was an answer.
How?
Not maf'ul lahu means why. What is how? How is hal.
Hal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody asks you, how was the wind plucking people out? You would say, like they were, uprooted, trees. So you see? Now, this part, then therefore, is considered fi mahalli nasab hal. Okay? So this whole thing, we would just consider it, the whole thing is a hal of tanzi'u. And pretty much the rest is the same. Any questions? And of course, ka is also a harf of jar. كأنهم, you know, ka comes with that. You can also look at it like that, and you say kaf is harf of jar, anna is isim majroor, and then anna again is mubtada, and hum is the isim anna. You can look at it like that, but just for ease, you can just look at this whole thing as a mubtada and move on with your life. Makes it easier.
So this whole jumla will be mahlan mansub.
Yes, this whole jumla.
Ji.
Yeah, and we forgot one thing. What is this whole jumla then?
This should be again hal for Rihan, sister.
Hal? Look at Rihan.
Sifa. Sorry.
Sifa. Because Rihan, look, Rihan is light. Sorry, light. It's not light. It's, what is it called? Nakira. It doesn't have, yeah, it's common. Because it's common, a sentence that comes after it, yeah, jumla ba'daha, nakira ba'daha jumla, it's going to be a sifa. If it was ma'rifa ba'daha jumla, then it would be hal. So if this was ar-rih, then we would say that this is a hal. But because it is nakira, rihan, nakira ba'daha jumla, it's going to be sifa. So you see, jumla inside a jumla. This whole thing is a sifa, and inside that sifa is a hal. Any other questions? Okay, let's try and do the sarf a little bit. It's not so very difficult words today.
So there is Yasin Ro.
Yes.
This is from family 2. Siga, this is Yassarna, is Jama Mutakallim. Mazi. So Yassara, Yassaru. Yassara.
Yes. You
yassiru. Yassara, you yassiru. Taysiran. Taysiran. فهو ميسر.
Yes. We'll stop there.
So from there we have got this yassarna, yassara, yassara, yassaru, yassarat, yassarata, yassarna, yassarta, yassartuma, yassartum, yassarti, yassartuma, yassartunna, yassartu, yassarna.
There we go. Yassarna. So I'm not going to do all that. You did a wonderful job. So I'm just going to put ellipses, and yassarna is what we are looking for. And what does it mean?
To make it easy?
Yeah, we made it easy. Even though this word has other meanings that we will look at next, not next week. We're going to discuss that at the end. But yeah, we will look at the different meanings of this word, inshallah. We have arsalna.
Rasala, ra, sin, lam.
Which
From family 4. Family 4. Arsala, yursilu, irsalan. This is mazi.
Mazi again.
Arsala, yursilu, irsalan, fahuwa mursilun.
Irsalan, mursilun. Okay, so
again, this is the same.
Yeah, you can do the whole thing.
Arsalu, arsalat, arsalata, arsalna, arsalta, arsaltuma, arsaltum, arsalti, arsaltuma, arsaltunna, arsaltu, arsalna.
Beautiful. Arsalna.
We sent down.
Yes.
We
sent down.
We sent down.
Oof. Down. Then we have mustamirrin.
Mustamirrin. Actually, this is marara, na sister?
Yes.
Marara.
Yes. Marara.
From 10. Family 10.
Beautiful.
Istamarra, yastamirru, istimraran.
So first of all, this is isim fa'il. So I'm just going to write that. Isim fa'il. So we're looking for isim fa'il. So istamarra, yes. Go on.
Istamarra, yastamirru, istimraran. فهو مستمر.
We found it. Mustamirrun.
Mustamirrun, mustamirani, mustamiruna.
مستمران مستمرون.
مستمرون.
And of course, the jar version
Continuous.
now of it. Yes, continuous.
Continuous.
Again, I suck at spelling this word. Okay. تنزع.
نزع. Nun, sa, ayan. So from Bab Daraba 1.
Yes,
Daraba. Daraba yadribu. Naza'a yanzi'u. Mazi. Muzari. Naza'a yanzi'u.
ينزع. ينزع. Oops. What am I writing? ينزع.
Inza'an.
نزعا.
Nazan.
نازع.
نازع. منازع. نازع.
And then
نازع.
Oh, نازع.
نزع ينزع. نزعا. نازع.
Okay. So you have ينزع. You can do the صاد كبير.
ينزع. 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 ينزعان. ينزعون. تنزع. تنزعان. ينزعن. تنزع. تنزعان. تنزعون. تنزعين. تنزعان. تنزعن. أنزع. ننزع.
Yeah, so we already found it, Alion. تنزع. She.
Oneness.
And this means literally she, but we know it means it because it's referring to the wind. It
Uproot.
plucking. It plucks, maybe, or extracts, or yanks out. It has, well, forcefully removing. That's the idea. The idea is to forcefully remove something. So extracting, pulling, like plucking.
Peanut trees, how we pluck.
Yes, like that. That's the picture being painted here. Then we have munqa'ir.
Qaf, qaf, ayn, ra is the root.
Qaf, ayn, ra.
Inqara, this is from family 7 sister. Inqara yanqairu. Munqairu. This is inqara, this is ismul file. Inqara. Infala, yanfala, yanqairu. Inqiaran. فهو منقعر.
منقعر. This is the one we're looking for.
This.
So منقعر,
منقعران, منقعرون.
There we go. And this means uprooted. It has other meanings, but for now we'll just translate it as uprooted because that's the imagery that is being painted out. All right. Any questions?
Giving the meaning of maful, like, na sister? The uprooted,
yeah.
which has...
Because it's family 7.
Ji.
Lazim.
Lazim. Okay.
Right. It could also mean like something deep when you go and you reach something at the bottom end. Like if you go into the well and you reach the bottom, that would be like qa'ara. That would be the end of that. But uprooted gives the closest meaning. That's fine. Any other questions? So the grammar today is not so difficult, and also it's repetitive. So we've seen some of it repeating itself, like فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. And this is something that, of course, we'll keep on repeating. So we'll keep skipping it for the i'rab bit, but for the explanation, we'll not skip it. Also, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. This part also is going to keep repeating. So we won't do the i'rab much of it, but we will discuss the consequence of repetition of it. Any other questions on the Nahw or anything else? Because today was a bit light, I just wanted to like read with you guys just a small snippet maybe of my favorite i'rab book. This is i'rab al-Quran lid-Darwish by Muhyiddin al-Darwish, Muhyiddin Darwish, because I think he's just brilliant. Yeah, so we're just gonna do the reading so that at least you guys can have an idea of what it is that we are doing versus what actually Arab books say. And there's no really difference, but I just want you to appreciate like what we are doing, you know. So normally when you look at Darwish, sometimes he's gonna have 3 sections. Most of the time he doesn't. So he would have like a section of al-lugha where he talks about difficult vocabulary and he would explain those vocabulary there, like munhamir. He talked about fajjarna, uyunan, dusur, muddakir. All this we covered last time, except muddakir maybe. But all that came before. And then he would have a section of al-i'rab, where he's now going to do the grammatical analysis and the labeling that we are doing. And then at the end, he would do a section on balagha, where he would actually just now say a little bit of the implication. Why is this word used and not the other, and so on and so forth. We're not interested in the lugha. We're not interested in the balagha. We're interested in the i'rab. And in particular, in this section, as you can see, he was covering from ayah number 9 here all the way to ayah number 18. We are interested in ayah number 16, which is ayah number 16 here, which is what we're starting to do today, and ayah number 17. And then we'll see if we can be able to do next time. So that is, we're starting for فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ. I'm just going to read it for you guys so that you can appreciate what we're doing. So he's saying الفاء الأولى أن تكون هي الفاء الفصيحة. So he's saying الفاء الأولى, this فاء الأولى. He's not talking about this fa, he's talking about this fa, the first fa. The first fa is that it is الفاء الفصيحة, is the fa fasiha, like we said. كأنه قال إن علمتم ما حل بهم جميعا, as if he's saying that if you knew what happened to them altogether, جزاء وفاقا, as full, like they were given full compensation لعملهم because of what they did, then you would understand فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. You would understand the meaning of كيف عذابي ونذر. So this is fa al-fasiha in that sense. And he's saying and وكيف, now he's going next, he's saying كيف, this كيف اسم استفهام, like we did. So this is اسم استفهام في محل نسب خبر كان المقدم. So كيف is the خبر of كان مقدم. We already talked about that. وكان عذابي, كان واسمها, and كان عذابي, this part is كان and it's اسم. And then he's going to say ونذري عطف على عذابي, and نذري عطف to عذاب. Oh, and there's something I didn't mention here, so probably he's going to mention and we'll see. And he says ولم تثبت الياء في الرسم لأنها من ياءات الزوائد, من ياءات الزوائد. وكذا يقال في المواضع الآتية كلها, في المواضع الآتية كلها على أنه قرئ بإثباتها وسيأتي معنى الاستفهام في البلاغة. Yeah, there's something I didn't mention. You see how this نذري, I kept translating it as my warnings. عذابي ونذري, my punishment and my warning. So there's a ya here that wasn't written. So you can see the Darwish actually writes it. Nuduri, the ya is omitted in the Quran, and this happens a lot, like he mentioned. This is something that happens because this ya is one of the yas that is extra. And when you are reading a sentence, especially when you reach the end, you know, when you're reading the Quran, when you read the end, when you're stopping, you don't pronounce the last haraka, the last letter. So this is what happens basically. So they don't pronounce it, they didn't write it. You don't say wanuduri when you're stopping here. You just say wanuduri or wanudur. You don't even like, yeah. So that's what happened here, and also in other places in the Quran. It happens a lot, especially with this year when it ends like that. Okay. And then he says he would explain the ma'na, the meaning of this kaifa, why Allah is using a question here in his section fil balagha, in the balagha section. Then he goes to the next ayah. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ عَطْفٌ عَلَى مَا تَقَدَّمَ. So this وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا, this is ataf to what came before, is what he said. And he didn't even bother to explain laqad, because he has probably described it so many times and he assumes you know. Lam is lam lil qasam, qad is tahqiq, yassarna fi'l fa'il. He didn't mention all that. maybe he assumes, you know, Al-Quran is the مفعول به dimension. He goes straight to وللذكر متعلقان بيسرنا. So you see, and he says ذكر is متعلق to يسرنا. والمعنى ولقد هيأناه للذكر. And the meaning of this sentence للذكر is that we have actually prepared it. We have made it easy. We have softened it. We have facilitated for ease, for the purpose of remembrance. Yeah, and he goes on to explain this whole idea of preparing. من يسر ناقته للسفر ويسر فرسه للغزو إذا أسرجه وألجمه قال. So he quotes this sort of shi'r to support this argument. In other words, whoever prepares his camel for travel, or whoever prepares his horse for battle, they use this word yassara. Okay, and he gives this quote shi'r, which we're not going to go into that. It's not necessary for us. He gives this as evidence to yassara, and he goes on to explain the meaning of that bait, of this verse of poetry. We're not interested in that, so we're going to skip that, and then we're going to go to, does he mention anything else? Yeah, so he ends it. He doesn't mention فهل من مدكر كان الحرب. Yeah, so he basically ends there, and then he goes into the balagha section. So you can see it's pretty much what we're doing, alhamdulillah. And if you go to the next part, again, he has a bit on lugha, and then he has a little bit about i'rab and a little bit about balagha. So the ayahs that we've done today, كذبت عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذري. كذبت عاد فعل, so he's saying كذبت فعل ماضي وفاعل, and the fa'il is the here instead pronoun. So these two فعل and fa'il. Okay, وكيف كان عذابي ونذر تقدم إعرابها. And this part, فكيف كان عذابي ونذر, we've already done the i'rab of it, so he's like, I'm not gonna repeat myself. I mean, go back and read it. And then he goes to إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر. This is where we ended. And then he says إنا واسمها. So this first part, إنا, it's إنا and it's اسم. وجملة أرسلنا عليهم خبرها. And this sentence, أرسلنا عليهم, is the خبر. والجملة مستأنفة. And this sentence is mustaf. It's a new sentence. Okay. I don't know what this word is, so I'm not even gonna try and read it. I am not familiar with that. Yeah, so sometimes I come across things I don't know. I'm gonna skip that until I'm at a point where I can be able to understand. So I'm gonna skip that part. Then we're gonna go to warihan. Warihan maf'ul. We saw that. So rihan is the maf'ul of arsalna. Wasarsaran na'at. Na'at, again, like we've said, is another word for sifa. So if you see na'at, it just means sifa. Okay, and most of the time you see they use the word na'at as opposed to sifa. So sarsaran is the sifa of rihan, wa mustamir is the sifa of nahs. Mustamir is the sifa to nahs. Aw liyawmin, or is the sifa to yawm, like we already covered. Like the possibility is there, so we're going to say it's either a sifa to this or a sifa to that. Possibility is there. وسيأتي الحديث عن يوم النحس في باب الفوائد. And he says that, you know, the discussion on what يوم نحس is actually is, he will discuss it in the bab, in the chapter of, or the section of benefit, fawaid. Oh, he also has another section of fawaid sometimes that he writes about. تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر. الجملة صفة لريح. We already did that. We said, so that entire sentence, تنزع, goes back to ريح, goes back to ريحا صرصر, which is, it's a sifa. So that's what he said. وكأن واسمها, and كأن, this part is مبتدا خبر, is كأن, and it's اسم. So that's what he said. وعجاز نخل خبرها, and عجاز نخل is the خبر. ومنقعر صفة لنخل, and منقعر is صفة لنخل. So you see, sometimes you use na'at, sometimes you use sifa. It's the same thing. Don't think like maybe na'at means something specifically and na'at means, and sifa means something. No, it's the same thing. So they just use it interchangeably like that. والجملة حالية, and this entire sentence وكأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر is جملة حالية وهي حال مقدرة وسيأتي المزيد عن هذا التشبيه في باب البلاغة. So this sentence is جملة حالية في محل نسب. It's a حال, and he says he would discuss more on this kind of تشبيه. تشبيه in English we call it simile. Yeah, it's a big topic in علم البيان, specifically in balagha. Simile, where you say he is as brave as a lion, or he is as strong as an elephant, or something like that. That kind of structure is called tashbih. And so he's saying this structure, كأنهم, like this. This is like this. Yeah, he's going to discuss that later in the section of balagha. And then, yeah. فكيف كان عذابي ونذر تقدم إعرابها. This has the إعراب has already been mentioned before. ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر. Again, تقدم إعرابها قريبا فجدد به عهدا. This also, the i'rab of it has been mentioned actually very recently. He said قريبا, like just a few ayat before we talked about that. ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فجدد به عهدا, and he renewed it, he used it to renew the ahd, the promise. Yeah, so would you again, like Allah is repeating this to take the promise again, to renew the promise with us again and again. That's what basically what darwish looks like. I hope you have some idea, and don't be frightened to read without harakat. You can do it. Read something of Arabic every single day. It can be 2 lines, it can be 10 lines, it can be 1 page, whatever. If you want to improve your reading without tashkil, read every single day something. 1 page. It could be the Quran without tashkil. That would be easiest, probably, because you're familiar with the Quran. Read the Quran without tashkil, or pick a book and just decide, I'm going to be reading this book without tashkil. 1 line a day, two lines a day, 10 lines, 1 page, whatever you can manage. Read without. That's how you're going to improve. I like to read tafsir. And yeah, I hope that was a good idea of where we are and what we're doing. You can be able to appreciate the journey. Alhamdulillah. And that's the end. If there are any questions, clarifications, comments, I don't know, any corrections, anything at all, you can let me know. Otherwise, I can see, about next week. So yeah, I'm traveling next week, and I don't know how long, I don't know how this program is going to look like. When I settle down, I will let you know if we would continue with this or not. But definitely next week I will not be able to do this class or any other classes, so that's going to be a bit difficult for me. But once I settle down, maybe sometime after that, maybe Monday, Tuesday, or one of those days, I will let you guys know in the group how we're going to do that. Okay. Well, yeah, Zainab, I'm glad you found that beneficial. Don't be overwhelmed by tafsir. Don't open a tafsir book and be like, And if by the way, if you feel like Darwish is so advanced for you, no problem. You don't have to start with Darwish. I did not start with Darwish, by the way. I used to read Al-I'rab al-Muyassar. This used to be my thing. I never went beyond this. I'll come here, I'll be like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. You see, it doesn't have tashkil. You can still read this. Start from here. And you can see it's also summarized. So it's very little reading. It's not a lot of reading. So you can just come, read this, try and make it out what it says, and you'll improve every day. And then once you get a bit more confident, you can check out other things. You can look at this guy. Anyway, let's not jump ahead, but just find something and stick to it. Inshallah, that should be helpful. All right, any other questions, comments, or clarifications, or anything else?
Ilham,
yes.
The tafsir the i'rab that we read, you see, he didn't mention anything about the min zaida. Was it like not necessary, or what was the?
Yeah, so most of the time they assume, let's see, this is where, this is, because if it's so obvious, there are certain things that they assume it's so obvious, I'm not going to waste time mentioning. Like you see, even he didn't mention, there's a couple of things he didn't mention. He just skipped over it because he's like, you know this. I don't want to explain this to you. So, but if you're a student like me and you'd be like, why? Like, this was not mentioned. It becomes a crisis in your head. But then later on, as you learn, you realize, oh, okay, they don't mention everything, you know. But let's see. I want to see how he explained it so that I could. Where is it? فهل من مدكر, was it? Yeah. Yeah, he didn't even talk about فهل من مدكر, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't talk about this part at all. But let me see. Yeah, because it's like maybe you know this. I don't know. Like he just didn't talk about it. But we can check in ميسر. Let's see what ميسر says. فهل من مدكر, فهل عاطفة, وهل حرف استفهام, ومن حرف جر صلة. They're calling it صلة. ومدكر مبتدأ. So you see, they're calling مدكر مبتدأ. مرفوع محلا مجرور بمن. It's مرفوع it's في محل رفع and it's مجرور لفظا. وخبره محذوف تقديره موجود. Like I explained to you, like is there anyone present? هل مذكر موجود? So that's how it was supposed to be, but then the خبر is محذوف and it's supposed to be موجود, present. Yeah. So if you check other i'rabs, they will not mention it, but the way they would do the i'rab of it, it would tell you that this mean is zaida. Yeah.
Maybe it's not really necessary to mention.
Because they assume it's so obvious. Like you must, like they assume you have to know this. If you're looking at the tafsir book, you have to know this. But sometimes we don't, you know, because we are not as we didn't go through the same system as probably they did. So we don't know some of these things. But I think if you just check enough Arab books, you would probably come across somebody who says that it's the Zaida, and you would get the idea. Some of them are a bit difficult to read, so I don't really like. But the Muyassar version, really good. Darwish, really good. If you just figure him out, he's very good. فهل من مدكر جملة. Oh, it was mentioned before. I mean, I don't know if this one mentioned it, but yeah, you could probably find it somewhere. Let's see. Hamidan. Is it? Oh. So most of them are saying because it was mentioned. Oh, I think because it was mentioned in Ayah 15. That's why he didn't do the i'rab of it. So let's go to Ayah number 15. Because we started with, yeah, if you check number 15, probably it's going to be. But this is
started with Ayah 16.
Yeah, we started with 16. That's why. فهل من مدكر, this one. Yeah, so you see, he's probably going to mention, yeah. وتركناها مفعول وضمير يعود على we're going to skip all this. Going to skip. والفاء عاطفة, وهل حرف استفهام, ومن حرف جر زائد. So he already mentioned. Yeah. ومذكر مجرور لفظا مرفوع محلا على أنه مبتدأ محذوف الخبر. Yep. So yeah, he mentioned it. So من is زائدة, مذكر is the مبتدأ whose خبر is محذوف. That's what he's saying. مبتدأ أنه مبتدأ محذوف الخبر. تقديره موجود, meaning موجود. Yeah, so he had already mentioned it. That's why he didn't even like talk about it. Yeah. So sometimes they mention, sometimes they don't. It happens. And especially if they mentioned it before, they're not going to repeat it. All right. Any other questions, clarifications? Okay, great. And if you guys require me to do things like that, where I just take you through and I show you how to, you know, access these resources and how to read this different, navigate these different resources, I can be able to do that. If you want me to check Reverser or Ayah tools or whatever, we can do that maybe at the end of these classes and just we go through that. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with most of them, but if you require that, we can definitely do that as well, no problem. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording, and then I have some bit of information to tell you, and then we can end inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.